So it's 1996. I'm 33 years old, and I am this close to getting what I want more than anything else in the world. So I give my boyfriend of almost 2 years an ultimatum. He's got to propose to me by my birthday in 10 months, or we are done. Now, it's not just that my biological clock is going crazy haywire, although it is. It's that I just don't really have faith in happy endings. Now, part of this is probably because my father left my mother after 33 years of marriage, but I also blame Steve Murphy. In 7th grade, Steve Murphy passes me a note one Friday afternoon asking me to be his girlfriend. No boy has shown any interest in me whatsoever up until this point. And so all weekend I'm all excited and trying to figure out what to say, because the answer, of course, is yes. And so I composed this note very carefully and I hand it back to him on Monday. And for the next few days, Steve Murphy doesn't say a word to me. Which, as 7th grade relationships go, is probably not all that unusual. But a day later, his friends pass me in the hallway and they start laughing and pointing at me, and they tell me that this was all a big joke. Not to me. So naturally, I grow up not trusting the male species at all, and also believing that if I want a happy ending, I have to be the one to make it happen. So thus the ultimatum. Now, for a lot of reasons, I know that this guy is the one for me. Before we even go on a date, we're at a diner and he lets me eat French fries off of his plate. He is kind to animals. And neither of us has any interest whatsoever in Major League sports. So marriage made in heaven, right? But there is a hitch, because he's been married before, and obviously it didn't end well. And so he is not all that thrilled about going back into matrimony. In fact, early on in our relationship, he sits me down. I'm the first woman he's dated since his marriage ended. And he sits me down, and he's very earnest, and he says, you know, I'm not sure this relationship is going to work out. He said, it's like you're the first applicant. Like a job applicant? And not very romantic, but also kind of sweet. And so, honestly, I know he's the one, and I want him to propose. Now, another thing you need to know about me is, not only am I a control freak and wanting to control this whole thing, but I'm also a hopeless romantic, and I want it to be a surprise. I want, like, the big grand gesture, you know, the pretty in pink, you know, the guy sitting by the convertible and me going, oh, who, me, you know? So this is what I'm waiting for. So he's got his work cut out for him, but I believe he is up to the task. The next month, it's February, and we have plans to go out to dinner. It's Valentine's Day, and I think this could be it. This could be the proposal. So I'm getting ready to go meet him at the restaurant, and he calls me from work, and he tells me there's been a terrible accident. He works as a graphic artist, and he sliced his finger practically off of his hand, and he spent half the day at the emergency room, but he'll meet me there. And part of me is thinking, is this part of the proposal somehow? But when he gets to the restaurant, his finger is totally bandaged and full of gauze, and he's holding his finger up like this throughout the entire meal. But guys, between the appetizer and the tiramisu, there's still a part of me that thinks maybe there's a proposal in here somewhere. It is not to be. And then it's March. No proposal. And, you know, I want to be surprised, but I'm like looking around my shoulders to see if I can get hints like rose petals where they shouldn't be, or family members lurking around a corner somewhere. March passes, no proposal. April, May, June, no proposal. The deadline's October. Like, when is he going to propose? Finally, it's July. We go to the beach. I look for skywriting. There is skywriting, but not for me. It's August. We go fishing. We love to go fishing in those party boats out east. And guys, I really half expect him to pull a ring out of that flounder's mouth. But he does not. September. No proposal. Like, is he literally going to wait till the last minute? And I am starting to get annoyed and a little bit frustrated. September passes. Finally, he makes plans for us to go out on my birthday to dinner. And I'm like, all right, he is waiting for the deadline. And obviously he's going to propose or we wouldn't be going out to dinner. And he makes plans for us to go out to this restaurant called One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. That's not its name. It's really called One If by Land, Two If by Sea, but I can never remember the name, so that's what I call it. And it's this beautiful restaurant down in the village, and I'm just like, all right, you know, and I'm trying not to be an ingrate. I'm getting what I want. I'm marrying the man I love. But when I get to the restaurant, he's already there, and we sit down at the table. And I think to myself, like, what kind of lame proposal am I going to get tonight? You know? And there's this tent card on the table and this beautiful calligraphy. It says, tonight's special. So I think, well, if I'm not going to get this great proposal, I'll order something expensive to eat. So I pick up the tent card, and inside it reads, Tracey Miller, will you marry me? Oh. And I get it. Tonight's special. Tonight is special because he's asking me to marry him. And I think, that's pretty good. Not skywriting, but it's pretty good. And I look at him looking at me, and he's waiting for my answer. And guys, this is the moment, right? This is the moment when I just let go of controlling and all the crazy thoughts that are going in my head. And I just enjoy this moment, and I look at this man who's looking across the table from me with love, who's asked me to spend the rest of my life with him, and I can just be, right? No. I say, you're not doing this correctly. You have to get down on your knee. And the poor guy gets down on his knee, and he looks at me and he goes, Tracey, will you marry me? And before I answer, I am looking all around to see who else in the restaurant is noticing, because not only do I want the grand proposal, I want everybody to see me being proposed to. And nobody notices. And finally, I just give up, and I say, yes, I will marry you, and then I eat his beef Wellington because I don't like what I ordered. And then 10 months later, we get married. 22 years later, I am still married, yes, to the same man. And not long ago, we participated, the New York Post asked us to participate in this article about older couples trying out these relationship apps. So we do it for like a month, and then they send a photographer to our home to do a photo shoot. So about a half an hour before the photographer gets there, I'm all dressed up. I've got this beautiful red blouse and slacks, got my makeup done, and I see Fred walking up the steps, and he's got on jeans and a very casual plaid shirt. And I look at him and I say, is that what you're wearing? And he looks meaningfully at me because he's been married to me for 22 years. And he says, yes, that's what I'm wearing. That's what I'm wearing. And I let it go. And the photographer gets there, and we figure he's just going to take a couple of photos and leave. But no, he spends like an hour with us. And for whatever reason, we just get into it. And we were having so much fun taking all of these photos. Our dog keeps jumping up and photobombing. And we're just having the best time. And one of the last photos that he takes of us, he asks us to take our wedding photo down from the mantle. And he wants to take a picture of us holding the wedding photo. And so we do. And in that photo, we are both young and gorgeous. I'm 30 pounds thinner. He had hair. But I know what was really going on in that photo, because now 10 minutes earlier, just after I had signed the marriage contract, my musicians were demanding payment in cash immediately. And then my sister starts moving my family around while my photographer is trying to take photos, and I am boiling with anger. And my new husband looks at me and he sees what's happening, and he says those three magic words. He says, Tracey, calm down. Not magic. And then I blow up at him, and we have our first knockdown, drag-out fight as Mr. and Mrs. But eventually I pull it together because, you know, this is my wedding and I know these photos are going to be forever. But when I look back at that day, all I can think of is that I was so worried about what was going wrong that I couldn't really accept and be in the moment and know what was right. Well, about 2 weeks later, the photographer sends us the photos, the New York Post photos that he took. And so Fred and I sit down on the couch and we're looking at the photos. And the photos are amazing, you know, one better than the last one. And you know, when I look at these photos, I see something in them, in me, that wasn't there 22 years ago. You know, I spent my 20s and part of my 30s so afraid that if the men I dated knew who I really was, if they really got to know the real me, they would run screaming in the opposite direction, and then I would be alone. And truthfully, some of them did run and scream. But this man I married, he gave me the happy ending that I didn't know I wanted, but desperately needed, which was the freedom to just breathe and to just be me. And even though there are times, because marriages are rocky, that he threatened to leave me and join the circus, I always knew that he didn't mean it, and that he would always stay by my side, laughing at whatever insanity I threw at him, and love me anyway. That, and he still lets me eat French fries off of his plate, and neither of us has any idea who's in the Super Bowl tomorrow, nor do we care. Thank you.